Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Tell the tackle, take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, you drive down the first man who is inside. Fullback, you tell him to take the first man outside the offensive tackle. No one shows. Go right by this and field inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. So look at this play. What we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. I'm joined alongside Jacob from the Packernet Fantasy Podcast. We got Tim live in Green Bay. Guys, it's officially Bears week. Is anybody else excited?
Oh my God.
Just a little bit.
Just a touch, right? Just a touch.
Just
I know
a tad.
the chat's filling up here. We got Cheesehead Murph in the house. We've got Eric Sutherland in here, M. Smitty, the whole gang is in town. I'll tell you what, this week is going to be absolutely awesome just prepping for the very first game of the 2023 Green Bay Packers season. There's so much to dive into. I don't even know where to start, really. But what we thought we would do, and this was kind of Jacob's idea. What's up, Larry? Appreciate you dropping through. We're just going to kind of start to dig into the Packers versus the Bears. And you guys have seen plenty of information already dropping. You're seeing – it's funny. If you had looked at it 2 months ago, Jacob, you would think everybody is on the Bears, right? That's what you would be thinking. That, okay, the Bears are going to run away with it. I mean, my goodness, Justin Fields is an MVP candidate. And then if you look up this past week, the last 7 days, it is completely flipped, is it not? And I think we're having technical difficulties.
I think it has. I know that the last time I looked at it.
Go ahead, Jacob. There's a delay. It's cool.
Working?
Yep.
Yeah. Last time I looked at the DraftKings or whatever, I still think the Bears are -1 favorites per se right now, but I don't know, man. To me, that's an easy bet for me. I don't see it. Like, I know it's in Chicago. I know there's a lot of variables there, but I just really think that this team is going to come in there and put a hurting on the Bears.
Gotcha. Tim, how are you seeing it, man, so far? I mean, obviously the momentum shifted a little bit, I believe, as far as, I know that the betting line we'll talk about here in a minute and how the money is kind of shifting a bit. But how are you seeing this Packers-Bears just on the surface?
I'm with Jacob 100%. I think that, I'm not going to use the word blowout, but I'd love to see it. I feel pretty confident in our squad going in there week one. And, yeah, more so now in the last week or so. It seems that there's a lot of things, just issues that are popping up for Chicago. I put myself through the ringer getting ready for the show, and I actually spent some time on bears.com doing a little research, and they've got some issues. So I mean, the line's going to be what it is, but I think the Packers can come away with the dub week one.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a blowout in any regard, in my opinion. But I think it's hilarious how, like I said, a couple weeks ago, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, it was just what are the Packers going to do? 2, 3, 4, and Justin Fields is just absolutely dominant, right? So here we sit now, and it's all of a sudden it seems like everything's changed. And Mitch, of course, in the chat says the line moved from Bears -1.5 to even in 3 days, just to kind of give you guys an idea of what's going on there. Pretty wild stuff. I know, Jacob, you're having a few little technical difficulties there. Hopefully there's not too much of a delay, but let's go ahead and let's try to dive into it. I got a little surprise for you guys. I'm going to share my screen here, and this right here is from PFF, and we're going to kind of look at the game summary. I'm sure you guys can see this. It may be a little bit blurry. I apologize if it is, but we're just going to kind of hit on some of the key statistics here. First of all, like they had mentioned in the chat there with the spread, it opened up at -2.5. In some cases, some bookies had it at -3. And now we're all the way down to Chicago -0.5. Okay, so you can kind of see how it shifted. We always talk about you typically get a 3-point home field advantage, when it comes to the spread. And in this case, it seems as if it's kind of falling apart for the Bears as far as the line goes. Wouldn't you say, Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit surprised about that. Like I said, can you hear me good?
It's a little faint. You can turn it up a little bit if you want, but there's a little bit of a delay too. I don't know what's going on. We're running into a few little difficulties. It's all right though. Go ahead.
I mean, the first thing that kind of jumped off the page there was the quarterback comparison. Looking at Jordan Love's PFF grade is 78.7. Justin Fields has a decent grade at 70.2, but I really don't feel like that gives him justice because we saw those passes. A lot of people are really trying to brag on Justin Fields. He literally had like an air yard total of like -3 yards that went for an insane amount of yards and touchdowns. So I think it's just we need to pump the brakes. If you're a Chicago fan, you need to pump the brakes and just actually see what he looks like when he's a drop back quarterback and has some pressure on him. So I'd probably pump the brakes if I'm a Chicago fan.
Yeah, same here. What about you, Tim?
Yeah, I would pump the brakes too if I was a Chicago fan, but there'd be a lot of things I'd do if I was a Chicago fan. None of which I'm going to share with on the air tonight. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before. I don't know why they were so confident before, and now I really see why. I just don't get it. I mean, other than being homers and being diehard fans of their team, I guess I can understand why Bears fans are high on the Bears every year. I can respect that to a certain extent, but ignorance is bliss. They're confident in a lot of areas that I don't think they should be. So,
yeah, it's funny. Ryan talks about it all the time. When you get into the off season, all of a sudden all their problems are fixed, and then as you close in on the season, the second things go awry, they tend to, I don't want to say jump ship, but then it turns into, okay, it's this guy's fault, it's that guy's fault, and it's never been Justin Fields' fault, which we know Justin Fields is an elite runner, right? We know that. We know he may go down as the greatest rushing quarterback in the history of the game. I mean, he was that good last year with an elite PFF grade running the football, but he was horrendous throwing it. And when you look at the preseason too, and how he played, you've now seen JT O'Sullivan, right? You've seen JT O'Sullivan break down his tape, and you've also seen Kurt Warner break down his tape. And both of them are like, I don't know, man. There's just a lot, leaving a lot to be desired there for sure. When we look at the PFF breakdown here, Tim, I'm going to pop it over to the lineup screen in here. You can see that, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's do this. Let's first talk about the Chicago Bears offense. So we're going to start with 11 personnel. And when it comes to 11 personnel, let's go ahead and trigger our nickel defense, which we will most likely play if we're not playing a big nickel. When you look at the matchups across the board, what I want you to ignore is Van Ness here at right outside linebacker. I don't know why they plugged him in there. I personally believe that Preston Smith will still be the outside linebacker in our nickel 2-4-5 defense when they're in their 11 personnel. That's just me personally. Now, that I may be proven wrong. Maybe they have inside information. I have a hard time believing it. But regardless, when you look at the matchups across the board here, Tim, yeah, I love how PFF does this because, okay, this is the Chicago Bears offense and their 11 personnel against our nickel. And it really, especially the color-coded aspect of the PFF grades, everything really pops off the screen and shows you, okay, where are the strengths, where are the weaknesses. And when you look at it, the first thing that pops out to me is that offensive line for the Chicago Bears. And the reason it looks so weak in that regard is real simple. They're going to be without their starting left guard. What was his name? Drawing a blank on the last name. Tevin Jenkins, right? Had an 80.7 PFF grade last year. So when you look at that, the way I would attack this front is center and left guard. The center of 55.9, that's Lucas Patrick, and then, of course, Whitehair at a 65.9. What I would be looking to do, and we'll talk about it here in a little more detail, is you want someone really challenging the outside shoulder of that left guard. Now, you've got to play within your scheme and understanding that they're going to be running some zone read, some read option. You've got to account for the fact that Justin Fields can run with the football because we know his passing grade is horrendous. So when you look at it from the offensive line standpoint, what's that? All right. Sorry, Jacob. I barely heard you say something there, man. I don't know what happened. I'm assuming that was Jacob that was talking. But when you look at how you're going to attack this offensive line. You're going to attack it through the A to B gap on the left side. That's what you're going to be looking to do, right? And what I would like to see is Kenny Clark lined up in that 3 technique off the left guard on the outside shoulder of the left guard. Of course, if TJ Slayton continues to play at the level he has here in the preseason, we have no problem keeping him in at nose in that nickel 2-4-5 with a little bit of a rotation of Devontae White. But what do you think about the front 7, Tim, when we look at it this way?
I think the Bears are going to have their hands full. Either way about it. Interior offensive line for them is clearly a big issue. It seems like the Bears, on paper, they could probably be okay with their run game, as an offensive line, maybe. And I say okay, not great or good, but I don't see them protecting their quarterback. I think our front is going to have a field day, honestly. And maybe I'm overconfident, but that's the way I see it, man.
Yeah, I do too, man. And really, that's where games are won and losses right up there on the front. We got Nate the Great in the chat. What's up, Nate? Let's see here. I want to go to this comment right here. This is John Schmidt, YouTube member of the PTA posse here. He said Kyle Brandt was on Rich Eisen and picked the Bears at 13-4 this year. Does no one remember this team had the number 1 pick? Well, I'll tell you this, John. Kyle Brandt is a lifelong Chicago Bears fan, right? So that tells you everything you need. It's like Adam Rank. Adam Rank, every single year, he's got the Bears picked to have this great year, and then all of a sudden, it doesn't come to fruition, and you never hear from him again until the next year when they pick them to do great again. Zane in the chat says, "Go Pack, go!" And this is a good question here. Marbley says, "Does Ja follow Moore all game?" If you're asking me what I would do, I would say absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm sorry, DJ Moore isn't that big of a threat. Now, can he make plays? Yes, he can make plays. His PFF grade, as you can see right here, Tim, is a 73.9. And, he's hands down their best wide receiver according to PFF. But when you look at what you're wanting to do schematically when it comes to playing the Bears, I know people, and I'm not suggesting this is what you're saying, Marbley, but a lot of Packer fans are going, we need to play man coverage. We need Ja covering DJ Moore and following him everywhere. The worst thing you can do against a scrambling quarterback, Tim, is play man coverage. When you turn your back to a scrambling quarterback, especially if you're going to play a 2-high shell, if you end up playing, what they call cover 5 or a 2-man under, I'm telling you right now, it's going to be, you're just putting yourself at a disadvantage that you don't need to. You always want to, in my opinion, when you're playing a scrambling quarterback, you want to try to lean on zone defense. So your defenders are always facing the line of scrimmage. You're always facing the quarterback. You've always got eyes on that scrambling quarterback. Do you see that different, Tim?
No, not really. I totally get where you're coming from. And, you're right about DJ Moore. I mean, he's a guy that can find a way to get open, and he can be a yards after catch guy. But again, this is assuming he's got a passing quarterback throwing him the ball with some success. So, and I would agree. Same thing, it's one thing to want to see your best corner on their best receiver. And, situationally, we may see a little man here and there, but I think this overall encompassing blanket approach of let's just play a ton of man. I agree. That plays right into their hands when you got a running quarterback like that, especially when you have issues. Their line has issues with pass pros. So I'm assuming this is going to be one of those deals where we're going to see a lot of shotgun, and we're going to see, Fields basically catching this ball and looking to run. So, I don't want to play right into their hands. I agree.
Right. Hey, Jacob, I don't know if you're trying to talk. We keep getting a little bit of feedback there. Try to say something, or try to kill your camera too. See if that helps with the internet connection. That may do something there where you can just go audio only. If you can hear us, go ahead and talk.
It's a little bit of a test here. Not seeing you guys.
Yeah, man.
It's on my end.
You're lagging.
Right, guys. It's
Gotcha.
Our power went out.
Got it. Okay, cool, man. Yeah, just holler at us if the connection gets a little bit better there, Jacob. All right, so Jacob's got some technical difficulties. He said the power went out up that way, so that sucks. Gonna miss our dude.
It's been windy. It's been really windy over here, the whole state of Wisconsin. So it's just crazy.
Gotcha. We'll muscle through here without our boy. Let's see. So when it comes to the question that you asked there, Marbley, I would want them to lean on zone defense personally. I don't want them. I don't want Ja following DJ Moore. I don't think he is one of those guys that you've got to shadow your number one corner on. Can he make plays? He can. He's very dynamic. Again, when the Packers were rumored to be trading for him last year, they were in the hunt for that. I was going, no, please don't do that, because I personally felt like the Chicago Bears overpaid for him. That's just me personally, So that's kind of how I see that. Let's see what else we got here in the chat. Eric Sutherland seems to disagree. Agree. Moore is overrated. Besides that, Fields is going to be busy running for his life, especially if Rashawn Gary is active and healthy. That's for sure, Eric. I'm looking really forward to seeing Rashawn Gary out there. It sounds like they're going to have him on a snap count. Did you hear the same thing, Tim? I believe I read online they're going to have Gary on a snap count.
Yeah, and I think Jacob said that the other night too. A few nights ago when we were on that, LaFleur actually mentioned that basically he was going to be a go, but they're going to have him he used the term pitch count, snap count. We know what that means, which I think is the right move. I'm sure if we left it up to Bane Gary, he would be ready to start and play 61 snaps and, and just get right into it. But I think we do need to kind of ease him along. And plus, like you said, we have depth. So, yeah, Gary being out there will make it interesting. But I'm a big fan of the zone approach, and maybe not a lot of pressure for Justin Fields early. Maybe a lot of make him stand there and make decisions with the football with his arm and not his legs would be kind of my game plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually what Gray Matter 2006 says, need to make the Bears try to throw the ball. Completely agree. It's actually in my notes. I'm going to give you guys kind of an offensive game plan approach and a defensive game plan approach before we wrap up, and just some keys that I think that really needs to be focused on in order to come out with a significant win down there in Chicago. We got Elevated Shine in the chat, says go Pack go. What's up, Elevated? Thanks for dropping through.
Prison
let's
Mike.
see right here. Yeah, exactly. Prison Mike, my man. Let's hit it once. You want to?
The way we talk in the clink.
I love it. All right, let's see. Zane in the chat said, how much TD J Love throws in week one? I guess he's saying, how many TDs did J Love throw in week one? I'm going with 3. I don't know, man. It's they play a lot of zone. I don't think you're going to see the scrambling version of J Love much. I think if they're smart, what the Packers would do is we look at this diagram a little bit deeper. I'm going to go full screen with it here for a minute, Tim. Let me take that off there. Thanks for the chat there, Zane. And when you look at their score here, the thing that stands out to me, I'm now going to switch over, okay, and we're going to put Chicago on defense and Green Bay on offense, okay. Now we're going to have them in nickel and us in our 11 personnel. The thing that pops off the screen here to me, Tim, is if you look at the left side of the line, ironically, right, we talked about attacking the left side of the line for the Bears, especially interior-wise, attacking their guard and their center. But if you look at our left side of the line, what do we have? We've got David Bakhtiari, if he's healthy. I mean, last year was an off year. We all know that. He was still recovering from the ACL. So was Elton Jenkins. But still, they're hands down our best 2 offensive linemen at a 79.8 and a 72.3. Now, look on the defensive side of the ball up here, what you have. You've got edge defender Green at a 62.4, and you've got Jones, their interior defensive lineman, their number 93, a 45.8. What I would be screaming is, let's attack the left side of that offensive line. Now what you want to do is slide over to the secondary on that side of the ball, right? Look at what you've got. In the nickel, you've got their cornerback Gordon, 49.8, and then their corner on that side. Now, granted, they could put the rookie Stevenson over there. That's definitely possible. But they got the corner Johnson at 62.9. So when you look at that matchup, if you do go slot left, which we like to do a lot in that doubles on 11 personnel, you've got Musgrave, in the Y on the right side of the formation. So it'd be strong right doubles with your slot left. I love the idea of attacking the left side of that defense, Tim, especially with those low PFF grades. Both you could do it inside and you can do it outside. But if you start stretching that defense with outside zone to the left, yes, you have strong linebacker play. I know a lot of people like to bash their linebackers that they signed, but they do have good linebackers at the second level. They got TJ Edwards. Obviously, his defensive grade was an 81.6. And then, of course, you got Edmonds, who came over
Tremaine Edmonds,
from came over from Buffalo, and his is an 81.9. Now, when you look at what they do well, Tremaine Edmonds was a 90.0 in coverage grade, but his run defense was a 60.1. So, okay, when you're talking about us running the rock, now the run defense grade for TJ Edwards was a 79.0, not bad. But again, that front, I think we can really attack. You may even see some duo left, Tim, as far as attacking in the running game. But you see what I'm seeing on that left side, how you see that weak spot over there?
Absolutely. And I love this. I love being able to see it on the screen like this too. Brings it to life. Major.
Yeah. It really does. The color code helps me a lot, man. Yeah. I'm telling you, when you're dumber than a rock like me, I need colors to flash. It's just the way it is. We got Eric Sutherland in the chat said, Jacob, stop stealing your neighbor's Wi-Fi. It's garbage. Oh my God. Let's see here. John Schmidt in the chat says, do they play zone with Quay as spy most of the game then? I think what you're going to see, John, I think you're going to see a lot of quarters coverage. I want them to play with a heavy box. Not that you're going to see quarters coverage, but I want them to play with a heavy box. And yeah, you can play that double rat. We played double rat a lot last year. And basically with double rat, your inside linebackers are just playing kind of a drop zone across the middle, right? And yes, they're going to cover the flats, but it's one of those priority things. And like we talk about when you talk about zone match, it's if and then. If they do this, then we do that, right? And I think that you're going to see a lot of double rat. And with that double rat, Quay comes along as a spy. Devondre being, to Quay's left and from the offense's perspective to the right is typically going to have his hands full, whether if you're in 12 personnel, you're going to have kind of that tight end bunch on that side of the field. If you're in 11 and they try to attack the flat, whether it's with the halfback or the tight end in a little flat spot concept, then Devondre is going to have a little more responsibility covering that flat, and that's going to free Quay up. We know Quay, in my opinion, is more athletic than Devondre Campbell, so I want Quay's attention really being on Justin Fields. And again, man, I want them to test Justin Fields' arm. That's where I think you win this game, Tim.
Oh, absolutely. And, that's something that doesn't get talked about a lot with him too is, I feel like we're blessed with our young quarterback and his decision-making ability. And that's always been one of the things with Fields that, at least from the outside looking in, I've always noticed about him is, being good under pressure and spinning out, running out, creating with your feet is great. But it's like, when he's got to make those split-second decisions throwing the ball, that's when we get the picks. That's when we get the tip balls at the line. That's when we get mistakes. You always talk about that. It's not necessarily about getting sacks. It's about creating pressures or putting that offense in a position where they're going to make, some mistakes. So I agree, man. I really do. I would like to see him have to throw the ball as much as possible. I don't know. How do you feel about his deep ball? Because there've been deep balls I've seen him throw that look incredible. And then I've seen the majority of them that look like, interceptions waiting to happen. I just wonder with our back end, our safety group, getting over the top, if that is something that's a concern with him throwing.
Yeah, I think the main thing you want to focus on there is just keeping everything in front of you. And it's actually in my defensive game plan. As a matter of fact, I'll just jump into it and we'll keep this pulled up and lean on it a bit too. What I would like to see them doing is basically playing a little more big nickel, right? I would like to see them play a little more big nickel as opposed to traditional nickel. Play with a heavy box. Be patient against the zone read. That's, if you guys will remember last year, and when you talk about the deep ball, Tim, if you'll remember when they were in Chicago last year, Jair got beat deep, but it was because he bit underneath, and you can immediately tell that he screwed up his assignment. It's one of countless times last year where people were absolutely bashing Joe Barry, and I kept looking up and saying, guys, listen, that was not on Joe Barry. That was a defensive flaw. That was a player mistake there. When Ja bit inside, you can immediately tell that he turned his back and ran, right? And when he turned his back and ran, he realized, crap, I had a deep responsibility there, right? So the only play I can think of where they beat us deep was a mental mistake by Jair Alexander, right? So
Right.
I'm really not so concerned about it. And the main reason I'm not concerned is because we're going to play with that too high shell. Now, on those obvious running downs, let's load the box, like we said, play with a heavy box, probably see a little more big nickel, and then be patient against the zone read. Where they did burn us, if you'll remember, is when they ran the read option and he broke like 3 tackles
Right.
and took it for 6. So if you X that out of the equation, by the way, it was, if I remember correctly, it was Darnell Savage, Rasul Douglas, and Adrian Amos all missed on that tackle. Might have been Quay in there as well. I can't remember exactly. But again, that was just players missing tackles. When I look at it schematically, I didn't look up, Tim, and say, well, crap, they just outcoached us there. I looked up and said, those guys have got to wrap up there, man. And you got to know where your help is. If you know you've got help on the inside, then you got to fire that tackle at the outside hip, force him into the teeth of the defense. There was just times, especially with Adrian Amos last year, and I'm not saying this because he's now gone. The truth is the truth. It was just like, man, that was horrible technique on the tackling. Eric Sutherland in the chat said, if we can get 20 snaps out of Gary, that would be great. That's what's nice about having so much depth on the outside. Absolutely. What I would like to see, Eric, is us jump out to a nice little lead. That way we can set Gary after that, maybe that 20 snaps or whatever the snap count is. Let's see if we can put this thing away early and not have to lean on him too much. That would be absolutely great. So another one, we got Mastermind in the chat, says, Packers fan from Jamaica. That's what I'm talking about, man.
Right.
If the defense can't stop the run, then it's going to be a long season. Defense need to play like psychopaths. Yeah, but you also got to understand, Mastermind, that the way the league is gone now, Kansas City is notorious for this. I mention it on the pod all the time. A lot of these NFL defenses are willing to give up the run now to prevent those explosive plays in the passing game, right? And it's give and take. It's very much so give and take. The good thing about the Packers last year, once you got to third down, they seemed to play well. The problem was we were giving up, what was it? Was it like 6 or 7 yards per carry on first down, Tim? It was something crazy like that, right?
Terrible. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I remember that vividly.
Yeah. Let's see here. Mitch in the chat says, I always thought quarterbacks like Fields were the reason they drafted Walker. Yeah, that, and you had a lot of these teams, Mitch, they were starting to go to the outside zone scheme, the Kyle Shanahan scheme, which is exactly what they run there with Luke Getsy. Luke Getsy used to be with the Green Bay Packers. That's what you call an outside zone boot, right? Now, you've got different variations, different versions of it. Like LaFleur's system, it leans on heavy 11 personnel, much like Sean McVay does. It's still outside zone boot, West Coast boot. There's a lot of different names for it, but I think that had a lot to play with it too, is that you wanted those athletic linebackers where you could run sideline to sideline and be able to cover that outside zone. And especially once they boot off of that, you want to be able to run those quarterbacks down like you're mentioning right there. Sure.
And with you mentioning Getsy, clearly I don't know if you've been keeping an eye on it, but that's been an emphasis, is the screen game. He's putting an emphasis on the screen game with this offense. And, you look at them using tight ends in their running back room, I expect to see a lot of that in this game. I don't know what you think about that, Clayton.
Yeah, and really when it comes to the screen game, it's all about the hat count, in my opinion. When you look out there and you say, okay, how are they lining up? You're trying to, everything with football is a numbers game. You're trying to get a +1 in every advantage. On defense, you're trying to stay +1. If they've got 2 receivers on one side of the field, you want a triangle approach. If they've got 3 options on that side of the field, you want a box approach. 4 defenders over 3 defenders over 2. If that doesn't match up that way, then yeah, you get a hat count. You get a +1 hat count advantage. That's where the screen game comes in. And they do that a lot off of RPO, but you're right. This preseason, they played a whole lot of screen game on offense. And even then, man, and I'm not trying to pile on, but when you seen Justin Fields throw those short passes, it was horrendous.
Right.
Like he couldn't accurately throw the ball on a bubble screen. And it was like, man, this guy, he has not gotten better at throwing the football. Now, the regular season may hit and he may come out and play like gangbusters. I don't know. But, Jacob, let's try it again, buddy. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can. There's a little bit of a delay. Give us your take on the game here in case you get disconnected again, Bob.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, guys. I'm sorry. We had a power outage last night, so I'm assuming that has to be what's going on here. But what I was looking at for my matchup is going to be Darnell Wright going against what would be a Rashawn Gary. To me, I don't feel like that guy has any idea what he's in for. I think that even if he is a great tackle, which I just don't quite know if he is, but I don't think he's ready for Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary is a starved junkyard dog that's had meat being dangled in front of him for like the last like 6 months as he's sitting here trying to get through this injury. And Justin Fields is like a T-bone steak, and this dude is ready to go. Like he is, like as soon as he's off the chain, he might break the chain. I don't know if they have it because it's talked that they're going to maybe have him on limited snaps. I don't think that he's going to accept that. I feel like he's going to he wants to eat. That dog wants to eat.
Let that dog eat. Let him eat. And speaking of eating, just want to mention that this episode is brought to you by Old Southern BBQ. Their award-winning sauces and rubs will add flavor to your Packers watch parties. The sweet and tangy Dixie Red Sauce packs, a 1-2 punch with brown sugar and molasses, and the spicy Chicago Fire Sauce brings the heat with its fiery chili blend. Complete the championship flavor profile with their secret recipe, brisket and rib rubs. And for the ultimate tailgate experience, let Old Southern BBQ handle the catering for you. Their smoked meats, homemade sides, and cornbread muffins will have your crowd cheering. Visit oldsouthernbarbecue.com today for catering menus and to order their mouth-watering sauces and rubs. I want to pop this up here real quick. We've got an overlay. Bang. And again, this is Old Southern Barbecue Smokehouse. They're in 5 locations: Rice Lake, Hudson, Arden Hills, Minneapolis, and Shakopee. Check them out on www.oldsouthernbarbecue.com. You guys have heard me talk about the Chicago Fire Sauce. It is absolutely phenomenal. So appreciate them supporting the show for sure. John Schmidt here in the chat said, my worry is that Kmet, with the safeties especially, if Campbell is nursing an injury. Cole Kmet is probably one of the bright spots on this offense. And I kind of had I had Wright pulled up there for you, Jacob. I don't know if you could see it or not. Obviously there's no PFF information. He's a top 10 pick out of Tennessee, 6'5", 335, big old boy. And when it comes to Rashawn Gary, I'm telling you guys, go back and watch the Patriots game last year, and you could see how Rashawn Gary can wreck a game. But his defensive grade was an 82.9. His pass rush grade, 83.0. Coverage grade is a 90.1 elite, but don't even focus on that. It's very seldom he's going to be dropping into coverage. But the other thing about Rashawn Gary, a stat I heard, I think they said we were 22nd in the league in pressures without him. Before he got injured, we were second in the league in pressures. So Rashawn Gary is going to play a huge, huge role in this game for sure. Now, let's get back to what John Schmidt said here in the chat, which was asking about Cole Kmet. So let's switch it back over to okay, we're already there. Let's click on Cole Kmet real quick. So Cole Kmet, offensive grade 67.6, receiving grade 66.1, run block grade 65.1. He's 6'6", 260 out of Notre Dame. I'm really not that concerned with Cole Kmet. The main thing that if it was another quarterback, yeah, that's 6'6", 260, and with his athleticism being a second-round pick, might be something to worry about. With Justin Fields, though, again, my main defensive focus is make Fields beat you with the pass. Make him beat you with the pass. Do not let him run that zone read and pressure that, give a heavy box, shut down the run. They were first in the league in rushing, if I remember correctly. Is that how you remember it, Jacob? Were they first in the league in rushing?
I believe they were, yes.
Okay, gotcha. Dynamite drop in. Yeah, we got a strong delay, man. We'll get that straightened up for sure. So yeah, to kind of answer your or to respond to your comment there, John, I wouldn't worry so much about Kmet simply because it's Justin Fields throwing in the ball. Now, again, in my opinion, he's got to show us he can beat us with his arm. Until then, what I don't want to happen is us to come out and kind of play it safe, expecting him to pass the ball, and then run the read option, run the zone read down our throat. Tim, that would be, that would be like insanity, right? That'd be literally picking up right where we left off last year.
Absolutely. It's like I almost wonder if we just tell our guys to just stay home, like on those plays. Like don't crash. Just let him. Just let him do what he's going to attempt to do. It's like you see it coming. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what other game plan they can put together to really make a run at our defense, other than kind of just doing what they've been doing. And they haven't found much success. But yeah, we cannot allow him to run roughshod on that day. We just can't let it happen. And, I feel like if I see it more than once or twice, that's enough. Like we need to have a short leash when it comes to that. He's slippery. He's going to get away. We're going to see, chunk runs, right? 7-yard here or, a 12-yard here. That's fine. It's inevitable maybe, but we can't have that all day long. We have to make him try and throw the ball, but we can't expect it. Like you said, we can't expect that he's going to do that. So,
right. Yeah, for sure. Let's see here. Dave's MX6 in the chat says, "Sorry, I'm late. Had a long birthday weekend. LOL." Hey, happy birthday! Happy birthday! I never know if it's a male or a female, so I'm just gonna say happy birthday to you rather than man or ma'am. Okay, so I definitely don't want to get into one of those arguments, but let's move it along. Jacob, I know you're on a delay, so here's your warning. Start talking now, and I'm going to continue to ask you the question. How do you feel about the Packers offense? What do you think we're going to see offensively?
All right. Can you hear me? Is this?
We got
Yeah.
you. Bro.
Oh, wow. Okay. Maybe I don't know what's going on, guys. I'm apologize. We had a lightning strike hit us and my power went out last night. So I'm assuming it has to be from that because
Got it.
what I thought was kind of interesting, I looked at the PFF and I'm one of them elite subscribers, which just basically means they take my money most of the year and I only look at it for like 3 months out of the year. But what that also means is that they have these. I didn't know that they did projections. Did you know that, Clayton? I never actually saw that. Where PFF they'll do a projection for the game. So for instance, for the Green Bay versus Bears game, they have Jordan Love looking like he's going to pass for about 212 yards, an average of 6.8, 1.2 touchdowns, and they say he's for sure throwing a pick. When you look at the opposite side, I believe it was Justin Fields. They say he's going to be 15 to 24, 166, average 6.8. He's going to have 0.8 of a touchdown and 0.8 of an interception. So it's like they really get into the analytics there. Like it's to the decimal point kind of stuff there. But I thought that was kind of interesting. And when you look at a lot of the so my whole shtick is that I look at the gambling side of it, the fantasy football side of it, and I just can't believe that. Did you say that now the line has shifted so that the Bears are not -1? Because last time I looked at it, I suppose it depends on the site, but to me, man,
it does.
I like. I hope that Bears fans are. I hope they're prepared for like another at least 10 years of just wallowing in their own, you know what? Because I really do think like Ryan talks about it all the time about like the odds of having 3 quarterbacks back to. It's like no, dude. It's literally a coin toss every time. That's not how math works. That's not how it works. In fact, like if you want to extend the equation to like what's the scenario of a team having 3 quarterbacks back to back to back, yeah, you could probably throw in an equation there and it's way more unlikely. But if it's just a coin flip, which is what every single draft pick is in theory, right?
Right.
Like it's just 50-50. And I'm sorry, but like it's not a coincidence that these things keep happening to Green Bay. It's not like it's not a happen of chance. There are things that we've put in place that makes our organization prone to have good quarterbacks. Everything, from Tom Clements to the way that we have quarterback coach. Matt is a freaking quarterback guru. Is kind of what his thing is. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just really, really, really. I can't say this enough. I'm excited when you look at what the PFF grade for it doesn't give him the grade. But he does give Sean Clifford, I'm sorry, PFF gives Sean Clifford 18.5 passing yards in that projection. So that to me means that the Packers won and Clifford went in there for cleanup time. Unless I'm reading it the wrong way. Yeah. I'm just saying.
It's kind of weird how the analytics drop, and I understand they're punching a bunch of numbers into a computer and calling it good enough, right? But Dave's MX6 in the chat says, "I'm a guy." We'll hit this for you.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
There you go. All right, go ahead, Jacob. You had something else?
No, I just I had all these little points before I got my internet all messed up. But when I was looking at the PFF, I want to look at certain matchups where we could win, where we'd have an advantage versus a disadvantage. I look at the offensive line for the Bears right now. Their left tackle is that Braxton Jones, I believe, 75.4 grade. That's decent. I'm not gonna lie, that's a decent grade for left tackle. Their left guard, not a bad grade either, 65.9. PFF had Lucas Patrick sliding into the center position. I'm not sure if that means that what's his nuts is not gonna Tevin, right? Tevin Jenkins. He's not gonna be able to make it at least the first 4 weeks. And then that
Who's
right
this other
guard,
guy they brought in? Didn't they just bring a guy in? I saw Feeney. What's his name? Dan Feeney. You got to
yeah, I saw that.
Google Dan Feeney. It's one of the most killer mullets you'll ever see in recent memory.
You get that Kentucky waterfall flowing, bro.
Oh man, perfectly. Yeah,
But I guess
Dan Feeney. They're talking about him possibly being a center. So I don't know.
Gotcha. Yeah, because what they're showing right here, Jacob, is Patrick, right? Lucas Patrick, as you see on the screen.
Exactly. Yep.
Hmm.
And that's what I was looking at. And then the right guard was at that 70.6. And then was it Darnell, right? I believe from Tennessee is what you said, the right tackle.
Yeah, I mean, rookie right here.
Look at who he's lined up against.
Right.
I mean,
he's gonna cut his teeth quick, isn't he?
He's gonna learn. He gonna learn.
He gonna learn today. They're saying, you know what? We've got a first round pick, and we're excited about matching him up against Bane Gary himself. And this is what I say.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
We got Chad Inc. in the house, says PTA Posse. Hey, I want to say shout out to Zane Strong, just became the newest YouTube member of the PTA Posse. Thanks for joining, buddy. And that puts you in the enters you into the contest to win the autographed Lucas Van Ness jersey that we're giving away during the post-game show immediately following the Packers-Bears game this week. Good stuff there. This one right here cracks me up too. Zane coming in here with the good information. He said Malik Heath's not even on the roster yet on Madden. I wonder why. We need to get on Madden, dude. What's up with that? They don't even know about Malik Heath yet. Don't even know.
127 yards and 2 touchdowns in week 1 might change that.
There you go. That's your prediction?
No, I'm just talking.
I'm just talking.
I'm just talking. I'm just talking.
Eric Sutherland says 10 years, Jacob. 10 years, Jacob. I want to see the Bears struggle till they shovel dirt over me. I love it. Larry's like, all right, guys, get it back on track. Let's ask a serious question. He says, will our safeties be a concern in run support? If last year was any indication, I would say yes, right? But again, Adrian Amos was horrendous last year. And this was, if I remember correctly, I can't remember if this was after Savage went to the slot or before Ford started. But nonetheless, let's look at them real quick as we pull them up. Rudy Ford's run defense grade was a 58.9, nothing to write home about, right? Darnell Savage's was a 56.3. Now, keep in mind, if we go big nickel, that's the reason we got Jonathan Owens. Jonathan Owens is one of the better tackling safeties. That could come into play there as well. But again, I've seen people over pursuing. In run support, Larry, I think it's gonna come down to basically loading the box and making him beat us with the pass. Make it so inconvenient for them to run the football that they're going to attempt to pass, that they can't pass up the opportunity to pass, but doing it with that cover 3 look, right? With still having people playing deep, you're going to be willing to give up some of those intermediate passes without giving up the huge explosive play, but shut the run down. I would feel totally okay with losing this game if we look back and go, you know what? Justin Fields just beat us through the air. He put it together. What I can't stand is for us to look back and go, why in the heck did we let them run all over us, right? Because everything suggests that Justin Fields is not a good passer of the football. I mean, let's pull it up real quick. Let's look at his grades here. And you can kind of see his overall offensive grade was a 70.2. His running grade was a 91.5. Guys, his passing grade last year, a 54.4. 54.4. Now, to put that into perspective, granted, a much less of a sample size, but let's look at Jordan Love, okay? Offense grade, 78.7. Passing grade, 77.1. So we just need to – it's going to come down to all the things I always talk about, and I know you guys get tired of hearing it because I get tired of saying it, but it's going to come down to winning the turnover differential, controlling the middle 8, pound on Fields, especially on those design runs. When he runs the ball, I'm talking about make him wish he hadn't had to run the ball. Period. Case closed.
Have you guys talked about the possibility of like somebody like Quay Walker shadowing Fields? Because I really hope it's something along those lines. I hope that, like, because if Joe Barry week 1 lets Justin Fields, like you just talked about, beat us not with his arm, not with his decision making, but if he can just scramble away, and you know what I'm saying, like that will make me lose my ever loving mind. So
Like I was saying earlier, I think you were offline when I said it. They
yeah,
play a lot of double rack coverage, which is basically those short middle hook zones with their linebackers. And in that case, you want your eyes on fields the entire time. Now, like I was saying, Devondre Campbell is going to have a little more responsibility, especially when the tight end is on the right side of the formation, because he's going to have responsibility in covering the flat as well, unless you're playing some kind of spinner where the safety's going to come down and cover the flat, which that could be the case that you play with the safety in the box. That's exactly what I'm talking about playing with a heavy box, whether you're in big nickel or not. But I think that does free up Quay Walker to be able to spy Justin Fields a little bit more in that double rat. And that's what you're looking for. I want to see Quay get his hands on Justin Fields one or two times. I mean, just plaster him, dude. That's what I'm wanting to see. So let's go to this chat here. We got Mastermind in the chat. Says, our greatest asset is that we have a young quarterback. These young wideouts are going to feel more comfortable because they were intimidated by Rodgers' stature. I think there was a little bit of that, Mastermind. Now, listen, I was a big Rodgers fan. I still am. I don't hate Rodgers. And if you choose to hate him, hey, that's cool. But when I looked up last year, I didn't see a scenario where it's like, man, Rodgers is the reason we're losing. I seen Rodgers playing with a broken thumb, and he wasn't as accurate as he was in those first 4 weeks, where he was 1% higher than his career completion percentage of 65%. He was actually sitting at 66%. He breaks his thumb, it dips all the way down to 61. And then in that last stretch, he kind of turned it back up, and I think got back up to 64 or 65%. But you're exactly right with these young wideouts. You could tell they were playing scared. And rightfully so, man. You know, he demands excellence. And I know people are poking fun at the Hard Knocks. Go, look at Aaron. He's being a douche to these young receivers and blah, blah, blah. Guys, when you have choice routes implemented into your offense, there is absolutely no room for mistake, none whatsoever. If you run the wrong route, he's not going to throw you the ball, because if he throws you the ball when you're going to run a wrong route, that's going to be an interception. And it always blew my mind that people couldn't understand it. It was just, he doesn't trust his receivers, so he won't give them a chance. That you're missing the point. There was choice routes all over this offense. Nobody believed me. I don't want to say nobody. Many people were saying, you're full of crap. You don't understand what you're talking about. And then what did Matt LaFleur come out and talk about earlier this camp? He talked about the F receiver. He talked about the flyer receiver and who can play in that spot. And he said, what's going to come down? There's a lot that goes into playing slot, playing F, playing Z motion, because one of the things he said was, you know, do they have the understanding enough of the offense to be able to run choice routes? It's exactly what we were talking about. So when you talk about how Rodgers got upset because he didn't, quote unquote, trust players, what you're basically saying is throw to him regardless. Okay, well, he's expecting him to run a post and he ran a seam route, right? If Rodgers throws where he thinks he's going to be, okay, you want to trust him and throw the ball where the receiver isn't. This isn't Madden. You don't go, oh, yeah, he's open there. Let me hit that button. Everything is in anticipation. You got to be on the same page. Now, the people that knock Rodgers for missing camp, for missing OTAs and saying you could have been on the page there, that's not really how it works, but I still think that's a fair argument, because whether Rodgers is in camp or not, the receivers are still making the correct or incorrect choice route decisions, okay? It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Same thing with the hand signals. They said Jordan Love actually led the hand signals when Rodgers wasn't in OTAs, right? And it blows my mind because people are like, that's what I said immediately when Rodgers was traded. I'm like, if you think we're no longer going to see hand signals and we're no longer going to see choice routes, you're setting yourself up to be very disappointed this year. Also with the RPO game, those decisions at the line of scrimmage. But yeah, to answer your question or to comment on your comment there, Mastermind, absolutely those receivers weren't playing loose with Aaron Rodgers. And I guarantee you they were playing partially scared for making mistakes. It doesn't seem like we got that this year. Jacob, we've talked about that, ad nauseum. I think that's going to be a big factor, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that like I think that when you look at the group of wide receivers, what is it, 6 of them or whatever, their average age is like the oldest one is 25 or something like that. I think it's Samari Toure is the oldest of the 6 wide receivers, and they're also twitchy. They're also like, I watched actually today for the first time. I just was scrolling through YouTube trying to find some content, looking through, and it was Christian Watson. It was from NFL Studios. It was like every single, I don't remember what the adjective was, but it was like every single decent or every single noteworthy catch by Christian Watson. And it took like 12 minutes of just cut to cut to cut to cut to cut. and you can see from game to game. And the first one was the first drop, the deep ball to Watson, obviously in the Minnesota Viking game. And then it's so funny because they clip back to I believe it was right before the end of the second quarter or into the third, and he made a great catch. And the announcer, before they clipped, to the next little to highlight, was that this is the first time he's hit him since the first drop. And it was like, oh wow, okay, so Rodgers didn't even look at him or throw the ball to him for another like 2 quarters basically after that happened. And we kind of saw maybe that he had his guys. Rodgers had, Lazard, those older vets, Cobb, and at the time Watkins, and those types of players. This year, it's not like that. We've got 6 guys that are raw. They're 1 or 2 year players. They're all hungry as you know what, and they're all twitchy. They're all possession receivers in a certain way. They're all multifaceted. Like Christian Watson. Again, I watched that review of him. I did not really understand, as much as a Christian Watson fan I am, he's amazing. I mean, the guy is, for how tall and lanky he is just a freak of nature. The amount of end arounds we did with him was insane to me. Almost every single play, when I watched it back, I could be like, oh, Christian's in motion right now. We're going to give him the ball. But the defense just didn't see it. And even if they did see it, he's so fast that if the linebacker or the cornerback thought that they had an angle on him, he would hit that corner and just turn up field. And it was just like they couldn't catch him. And I'm just so excited to see that again this year, because we added, obviously we still have Christian, and then we add the wrinkle of Jaden Reed. And then I know that Dobbs is a little mixed up right now with the hamstring. It's a little bit concerning for me right now, but I'm not really worried because I know that I have other guys like Torrey and Wicks that are just waiting. And they're so twitchy. They're so fast. These guys are really, really like, it's a humbling and kind of weird feeling to go into this season, because if you look at it analytically, I should feel nervous. I should feel like we don't have a great quarterback. We have a young wide receiver group. We have an unsure, secondary in the safety position. But at the same time, I almost feel like this could be a Super Bowl team. And I know that's a homer. I know that's a homer take. I'm just saying, this team has the pieces. So like if Jordan Love can actually turn it on, and then we have just a decent defense, that alone gives us 10 wins, I think.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't think 10 is being unreasonable. I've told you guys from the get-go, I'm sitting somewhere between 6 and 10 wins. And I'm kind of narrowed it down between 8 and 10 now. That's me personally. I think that's kind of where we're sitting for sure. Let's see. Chad in the chat said, I really hope Matt LaFleur and Barry are planning to have Fields try to beat us with his arm and just shut down the run. That's kind of the way I feel about it as well. Freddie Roper says, Stokes and Alexander on the outside, Valentine in the slot, Douglas and Nixon at safety. Once Stokes is healthy, man, you may see some kind of crazy combination like that. But obviously, Stokes will be out till at least week 4. That's for sure. ROK Beast in the chat said, did they change the game starting time? I thought it was a 1 o'clock kickoff. It is a 3:25 Central kickoff, right, Jacob?
Yeah. At least as far as
Tim, is that what you've got too?
That's what I've got. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to flex week 1, right?
I don't know. ROK might have more information than we do. We'll be sitting here on our couch waiting for the game to start, and it's already, in the fourth quarter, right? That sucked. Let's see here. What else we got? Cheesehead Murph in the chat. In-game / halftime adjustment were an issue last year. I hope the coaching staff had team building drills like the players. Yeah, I tell you, the coaching staff, they need to step up big time. One of the notes I've got here too, Cheesehead Murph, we're definitely on the same page. In big, bold letters, I've got, do not be aggressive on 4th downs. I got so frustrated last year watching them go for it on 4th down. One of the reasons we lost that Detroit game that kept us out of the playoffs was because we went for it on 4th down on our side of the field. And it was just like, what the hell are we doing? Like, are we that scared of the Lions that we feel like, we're not going to be able to stop them on offense? And the defense showed up and showed out. But those type of coaching mistakes are just, it's horrible, man. Absolutely horrible. Chad in the chat says, I completely agree with the hand signals, Clayton. I think our offense has a better connection with Love rather than Rodgers because Love was there during the mini camps and OTAs. We're going to find out, man. I think there is something to that for sure. Love's just impressed the heck out of me, man. And I was still hearing people kind of dog him a little bit and go, we haven't seen anything. I'm going, Are you not watching him command the offense? I don't care if it's preseason. Look at the way he gets in and out of the huddle. Look at the way he's making his read. Like everything within this offense, he looks comfortable in this offense. The way he turns his back on play action boot. And I'm telling you, his athleticism is a little bit better than I expected it to be. And that's very exciting in my opinion. So let's see what else we got here. Hopefully that did help there, Jeremiah. It was fuzzy, man. My screen, I've got this new monitor, and it's insanely wide, and it makes some of the stuff I share a little fuzzy, so I apologize for that. Hopefully we got enough information to you guys to make it worthwhile. Let's see here. Jeffrey in the chat, Jacob, he says the Packers have so much speed. Even if they are kept in check most of the game, big plays are going to happen. I agree with that, and I'm going to tell you one big play that I want to see. Like, let me just kind of lay out my offensive game plan. This is what I've got wrote down here. I want heavy 11 personnel, okay? Heavy 11 personnel, and the reason being, I would flash this back up on the screen, but I don't want to do that again. If we go to their nickel sets, right, with their nickel sets, and you look at across the board with their PFF, matter of fact, I am going to share it, but I'm going to highlight some of this stuff where you guys can actually see what it's saying. Okay, let's go to their secondary. First of all, imagine us in an 11 set. I'm going to go left to right. Here's Watson down here, right? He's the far left receiver, okay? So he's going to be your X receiver. Your slot is going to be Jaden Reed. We know that's going to change from time to time, right? So when you look at attacking, what did we talk about, Jacob, Tim? We talked about attacking with the run to the left side. We've got David Bakhtiari at a 79.8. Elton Jenkins is a 72.3. Their edge defender Green's a 62.4. Their interior defensive line that's going to play that 1-3 technique on the left side is a 45.8. Outside zone, outside zone, outside zone to the slot side, and then hammer boot action right. When you get boot action right, you got to watch for Edmonds, who had a great coverage grade, right? His coverage grade was a 90.0 last year. But what you're going to do is attack at three levels. You're going to see some of those slot crosses, some of those drive concepts. You're going to get Reed on a mid layer. You're going to get Watson on a deep crosser. You're going to get Dobbs stretching the field down the sideline to clear everything out. And you're going to get Musgrave on a leak, zag, whatever you want to call it. We used to call them Dinos, where they would come out in the flat. You're attacking at three levels while getting the defense, once you establish a run, to flow left as you boot right and attack at three levels. It's going to be like shooting fish in a barrel if they can follow through with that. So I think a heavy 11 personnel, right, run that outside zone left all day long. You've also got on that same side of the ball, I'm going to share it one more time. When you look at those corners on that side, in the slot, you're going to have Gordon covering Reed at a 49.8 defensive grade, right? And then you've got on the outside, on the boundary corner, Jalen Johnson at a 62.9. His coverage grade was a 65.2. What I want you to imagine is you start to run a little inside zone RPO left. So you're going to force those corners on the left side to cover the quick RPO action. So if they start to bite, once you keep hammering that outside zone run, that inside zone run left, and that corner, that nickel corner starts to creep into the box, now you can fire that RPO out in the short game and attack the perimeter. So I really want to see that quick RPO game left, especially against that nickelback Gordon, if he indeed is in the lineup at a 49.8 PFF grade. Boot right in levels, just like we talked about. Make Edmonds choose. Are you going to play soft and cover the deeper crosser, or are you going to attack underneath, capitalize on yak, lean on the run, don't get too aggressive on fourth down, control the turnover differential, win the middle eight, and just pound them into submission? And oh, by the way, bloody Justin Fields' nose all day long. That's what you need to do. So we're at the 58-minute mark. Let's wrap this big bear up. Jacob, parting thoughts, anything else you wanted to cover as far as this matchup?
I mean, I guess, do you think so? Typically, the Bears are running that 4-3 typical defense. Is that correct?
They run. Let's look at their base real quick. Let me pull it up here.
The reason I asked is that they signed Tremaine Edmonds and the two linebackers that they signed,
Edwards and Edmonds. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so is it that much? Like I just don't understand the rationale of the Bears fans being like, "Oh man, we just secured our linebacker group," which I get. Like, going back to Urlacher, and if you want to talk about Roquan or whoever. The Bears are known for their linebacking group, but what has that got you? Like, what has that shown for you? Like, are you? I'm just trying to put my head in the Bears fans' head and say
I'll,
this is
I'll
going to be
explain why it's important with this deal. I don't mean to cut you off, but when it comes to Eberflus's defense, he came over from Indianapolis. Indianapolis runs a lot of 4-3 zone defense, okay? And it's very, very important to have great coverage linebackers in that defense. I know a lot of people like to shun that and go, oh, all you did was sign linebackers. You know, silly you. All defenses are different. They're all like with us, the linebacking position, in my opinion, isn't as important because you play quarters coverage. They don't play a lot of quarters coverage. They play a lot of zone, a lot of cover 3 and cover 2 zone. So your linebackers need to cover. So when you look at Edwards, who they signed, coverage grade 78.4, right? And Edmonds, coverage grade 90.0. So basically, Jacob, you know how sometimes a regime, you know, a coaching staff will be, okay, well, they don't have now they got their quarterback. Now, okay, they're trying to protect their job. They go out and get a quarterback, a solid starting quarterback. Okay, this is kind of a last ditch effort here, right? You know, sometimes when you draft a young player at quarterback, well, that gives them 3 or 4 years because he's got to develop and the ownership understands that. I kind of feel like with Eberflus, it's like, look, this might be my last shot. If we have another crappy year, I might be out of a job. Let me go get backers that can run my defense. So I don't think it's a coincidence they went out and got two linebackers that can cover, and those are going to be their 2 nickel linebackers. So I'm not one of the Packer fans that bash that move going, oh, that's so stupid signing a linebacker. It's probably the most important aspect outside of edge defenders in that Eberflus style defense that came over from Indianapolis. You guys remember when they had that solid defense in Indianapolis 2 years ago when that got Eberflus the head coaching job, he was in the running for defensive MVP. It was Shaq Leonard, right? He was an elite pass coverage, balanced linebacker in the middle. And that really plays into that defense. But the problem is who's going to rush the edge for them, right? That's the big thing. Because when you look at their PFF on the edge and you know, again, even in their base, you're going to have Walker at a 72.8. Then you got Jones at a 45.8. You've got Billings at a 76.4. And then on the edge on the other side, you've got Inyakwe that was a 51.4, right? Like, I'm telling you, we need to attack the edges. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to point that out about the linebackers because, you know, it's just not that you're saying everything's universal, but I've heard many people just go, oh, that's so stupid signing a linebacker. Well, every defense is, you know, just a little bit different. And the only reason I know is because I studied the hell out of their defense last offseason. I came away going, their backers suck. Their defense is going to suck, and it did, right? So I'm kind of holding back a little bit this year going, let's see how it plays out because they did get good coverage backers in the offseason. So anyway, anything else, Jacob, you got, buddy? Sorry about that.
No, that's literally what we do this for, is to break that kind of stuff down. I guess the only other thing is I can't believe that we're within. Do you want to go live Thursday night while there's a game going on? What are we thinking about doing that?
Yeah, let's do it. Why not? Right? I'm cool with it.
Kind of fun, right? We can kind of talk about it as it's hitting, and
because it's the Lions game, right?
Lions. It's a NFC divisional matchup there, going against the Kansas City Chiefs. And that has to tell you guys something, that the NFL thinks that the Lions have a little bit of power packed up there, that they're going to put them against the Chiefs on the opening. They have to think they have a high potent offense, I have to believe, right? Am I crazy? Or else they just want to lay them out to slaughter.
Yeah, it was kind of a unique one, you know, because I'm sure they're going to do their ring ceremony, Tim, out there in Kansas City. They're going to be kind of unveiling all that stuff, and they're probably thinking, well, the Lions was one of the more popular teams last year, and you know, it's easy for us to sit here and poke fun at the Lions, but they finished as strong as anyone in the league last year. They really did. So they had one of the best offenses. That's what was so frustrating about those two matchups between the Packers and the Bears, because it was our offense that let us down, and the defense rose to the occasion and stopped one of the best offenses in the league. But Tim, you got anything else, buddy? And are you cool with going live Thursday with us as we watch a little bit of Lions and talk talk Packers ball here?
Yeah, absolutely, for Thursday for sure. Yeah. And I guess parting thoughts for this Bears matchup week 1. We talked about not getting beat with the run. We talked about making Fields throw the ball. Just one little thing to throw in at the end. Clearly in Chicago, it is running back by committee when it comes to their running back room. I believe it's Khalil Herbert, Deontay Freeman, and Rashawn Johnson. So there's not really there's not really like a a true RB1. So I feel like we have to remember too that that's just as much of a point of emphasis is that they could turn and hand the ball off a bunch too. So we have to be ready for that. And also using these running backs in that screen game, like we talked about, Getsky making that emphasis. Blocking tight ends, Bob Tunyon, Mercedes Lewis, so we got to be prepared for, multiple facets of the game when we go into Chicago, and we're going to be in a harsh environment. We're on the road week 1. As a fan, I couldn't ask for a better scenario to test our young team right out of the gate. Divisional matchup on the road. Put your big boy pants on. Welcome to the NFL. And, that's a great way to start the year. So this game is really going to be a tone setter, really, for both of these teams. If you think about it, this is a huge game for both of these teams just to get this season kicked off. So I'm excited, guys. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun for sure. I'm looking forward to Thursday night too, watching a little ball and talking Packers while we do it. Let's see here. We're going to finish up in the chat real quick. Whiskey61, coolest name in the chat tonight, hands down, said, we spent way too much money on defense and special teams to not play the field position game. A freaking man, Whiskey. It makes no sense whatsoever that you would be aggressive on 4th down like we were last year. And a lot of people like to blame Rodgers. It could have been the case, but every time that we didn't get it on 4th down, Rodgers is coming to the sideline pissed off, and Matt LaFleur looks confused. I'm going, you're the head coach. You can choose whether we go for it on 4th down or not. If you don't like it, then sit him on the bench. It's big boy time, right? Let's see. Mastermind in the chat says, do you guys realize how many jealous people are praying the Packers finally have a crappy quarterback, but Love is the 3rd Hall of Fame quarterback in a row? I'm not there yet, Mastermind, but if he is, dude, and I did a chalk talk earlier today. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, we went into the vault and did the 92 Packers matchup against the Bengals where Favre came in off the bench. We like convince ourselves and pretend that Favre was just this Hall of Famer right from the get-go. I think he fumbled in that game. It was either 5 or 6 times he fumbled himself, right? And then just put together 2 great drives at the end of the game, wins the ball game, So, there's going to be growing pains, but one thing's for sure. I think that Love will be way more equipped, way more prepared than Favre was in his first start because he just got thrust out there like a wild stallion. That's for sure. Let's see here. Number one Packer fan said, how's the Bears defense all around? I think they've got a mediocre defense. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's great. Again, I like those signings with the linebackers based off what Eberflus likes to do. We're just going to have to kind of see how it unfolds. Larry in the chat, thanks, guys. I learned so much about concepts and strategy from you, Larry. You make this show better, buddy. Every time you're in the chat, man, it lights up, dude. You've always got something positive to say. You always come with a good take, and when we're acting like a bunch of knuckleheads, you always get it back on track. That's for sure. So we appreciate you being in here. Yeah, let's see. Eric in the chat says Bears got a couple good linebackers to go with horrible edge rushers and DBs. Good luck. That's the point I'm making, man. That edge room looks horrendous. Yeah. I mean, horrendous. Marbly in the chat. Heck yeah, I'm going to watch the game with my family, but I'll leave you guys on to help the numbers. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Nice.
Of course, Cheesehead Murph said live film study. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This might be my favorite comment of the night. Eric Sutherland. Lions crying the ref screwed us since 1958. Love it, love it, love it. All right. We appreciate everybody hanging out with us. I think we've changed the world in here tonight, so we're going to get out. And I do want to say this right before we go, though, just one quick message to everyone. Let's hit it one time.
The Bears still suck.
There you go. All right. So thanks to everyone in the chat for hanging out with us. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. And go Pack, go.
The power sweep. Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Tell the tackle, take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, you drive down the first man who is inside. Pull back and tell him to take the first man outside the offensive tackle. No one shows. Go right by them and field inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, comes all the way around. So look at this play. What we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here and try to run this play in the alley.